Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, backed by Syria and Iran, vows to overthrow the Lebanese government and threatens the United States and international forces in Lebanon.
كل الخيارات مفتوحة حتى نفرض بوسائلنا السلمية الحضارية الديمقراطية إسقاط في نهاية المطاف الحكومة غير الشرعية وغير الدستورية فبئس السيادة ومرحبا.
The Shia, which Hezbollah represents, make up more than one-third of the Lebanese population today. Hezbollah militiamen are heavily armed and very well trained by Iran. A Shia revolt might trigger a new civil war in Lebanon.
They are creating a crisis in Lebanon, and this crisis is also backed by Iran and by Syria. And Condoleezza Rice said that there was a sort of coup d'etat being planned against Lebanon, and this is what's happening. I believe that at the end of the day, we might see a third civil war in Lebanon. The first one in 75-76. Second one was after the withdrawal of the Israeli forces from Lebanon, 1983. And we might see a third one if and when the Lebanese government decides to disarm Hezbollah.
The arrival of international forces in South Lebanon and the deployment of the Lebanese army there threatens Hezbollah's military wing. Disarming Hezbollah is not in the interest of Iran and Syria either, who would lose influence in Lebanon and would lose their weapon against Israel far from home. So far, they could use Hezbollah without getting directly involved in confrontations with Israel. In 1982, Iran created Hezbollah to protect the Shia from the Christians and to fight the Israeli influence in Lebanon, but also to export the Iranian revolution in the area.
So when the Iranians decided to invest in this entity, they sent the best of their instructors to Lebanon, and they chose a small group and they began training them in Baalbek. Some of them were trained in Baalbek by the Revolutionary Guards, and some others were trained in Iran. According to the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon and Syria at that time, Muhtashem Poor, more than 300,000 of those Lebanese were trained by Iran, either in Beirut or in Iran. Hezbollah turned to be afterwards the experimentation field of Iran. If they wanted to test a helmet, for instance, they would provide it to Hezbollah, a jacket or whatever, a weapon. Everything was, in fact, the experimentation ground was in Lebanon. Iran has been present in Lebanon for at least 5 centuries, if not more than that. So there is a historical bond between Iran and the Shiites in Lebanon, because in fact this is the only really Shiite concentration in the area, and they were linked spiritually and morally and even economically, financially to Iran.
The Shiite were the underdog in Lebanon, the lowest social economic strata, until the late 1970s, when the spiritual leader Musa Sadr and a young lawyer named Nabi Berri formed the Amal movement, a socio-political movement to represent the Shia. Amal also had a militia to protect the Shiite. In 1943, there were 300,000 Shiite. Today, the Shiite make up more than one-third of the Lebanese population.
Lebanon as a state never considered them to be part of Lebanon itself. In fact, in 1956, when there was this big earthquake that shook all over Lebanon, destroyed almost half of Lebanon and south of Lebanon, I remember until 1968 they were still talking about committees in order to try to pay back some money or help some people there to rebuild their houses. In 1982 there was a convergence of interest between the Shiites in Lebanon and Israel. Both were united against one enemy, one single enemy, which were the Palestinians. In fact, the Israeli troops who entered Lebanon during the first invasion of Lebanon were welcomed very warmly by the Shiites, and even the Shiites took them to places and showed them where were the Palestinians, those who were just shooting at the IDF. When Israeli forces got to Beirut, we got the first message from Nabi Berri. He wanted a meeting with the top military leaders at that time there, and unfortunately, because of procedures and mainly because of the fact that of ignorance, they didn't know who was Nabi Berri and who was Amal, and this meeting never took place. Once the Palestinians were ousted from Lebanon in August 1982, Hezbollah understood that the Israeli presence was there, and the Shiites understood that the Israeli presence was there to remain, not only to secure the election of Bashir Gemayel as president, but even more maybe to stay there in order to protect the regime as is. This was unacceptable to the Shiites. We became finally from early friends to late enemies. I believe that Hezbollah as a military force was directed against the military presence of Israel in Lebanon. As such, and since they were the only ones who waged the war against Israel, they became, in fact, the most Lebanese of the Lebanese.
Still, Hezbollah is backed by Iran, and its final aim as such is to create an Islamic Republic in Lebanon.